Right now, something is happening in the Persian Gulf that official briefings don't want you to fully explain, and if you're paying attention, you can already feel that this is bigger than anything being openly said. American warships are taking precise, calculated hits, aircraft are being disabled, bases are under pressure, and the reality is no longer something that can be dismissed or spun as exaggeration. The damage is real, it is being confirmed from multiple directions, and even voices that normally defend the official narrative are starting to acknowledge that something serious is unfolding. But the most important question is not being answered directly, and that silence is where the real story begins. These strikes are not random, they are not lucky shots, and they are not simply the result of Iran suddenly becoming technologically dominant after decades of sanctions. What we are seeing is precision, consistency, and targeting accuracy that requires real-time intelligence at a level Iran does not independently possess. So the real question becomes simple, but extremely dangerous. Who is providing that intelligence? And now the answer is out in a way that cannot be ignored, because multiple major international reports have confirmed that Russia is sharing real-time satellite data with Iran, including the exact positions of American warships, coalition aircraft, and high-value military targets across the region. This is not basic support, this is not vague information. This is described by officials themselves as highly refined, deeply detailed, and operationally decisive intelligence. That means when a missile or drone is launched, it is not searching for anything. It already knows exactly where to go, what defenses it will face, and where the vulnerabilities exist. That changes the entire nature of the conflict because it transforms what looked like a regional confrontation into something much bigger, a direct proxy clash between nuclear powers where one side provides the weapons and the other provides the targeting brain behind those weapons. Russia may not be firing the missiles itself, but it is effectively guiding them, and while that distinction might matter in diplomatic language, it makes no difference on the battlefield where the results are exactly the same. What makes this even more significant is the strategic mirror it creates, because for years Russia accused NATO of doing exactly this in Ukraine, providing targeting data that allowed Ukrainian forces to strike inside Russian territory. At the time, Western officials dismissed those claims by arguing that giving intelligence is not the same as pulling the trigger, and therefore does not count as direct involvement in the war. Now Russia has taken that exact argument, flipped it, and is applying it in reverse, using the same logic to justify supporting Iran against American forces. This creates a situation where Washington is trapped by its own past position, because calling out Russia too aggressively would expose the contradiction and risk escalating tensions with another nuclear power at a moment when global pressure is already extremely high. That is why the responses coming from leadership feel incomplete, deflective, or even dismissive, because acknowledging the full reality would force a much larger confrontation that the system is not ready to handle. But this situation goes far beyond political messaging, because the stakes are global and deeply connected to energy, economics, and long-term power balance. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most critical choke points in the world, with a massive portion of global oil supply passing through it, and any shift in control or stability there has immediate consequences for markets, fuel prices, and economic stability across continents. This is not just about ships being hit, it is about control over a system that powers the modern world. At the same time, another major player is involved in a much quieter but equally important way, and that is China, which is not making loud military moves or dramatic announcements, but is instead supporting the system economically and technologically. By continuing to purchase energy, maintaining trade flows outside traditional financial systems, and supplying critical components used in modern drone technology, China plays a role that keeps the entire structure functioning without stepping into direct confrontation. This creates a complex network where military action, intelligence sharing, and economic support are all connected, forming a multi-layered conflict that is far more sophisticated than a simple two-sided war. As if that were not enough, the situation is now approaching another level of escalation with discussions around potential ground operations, something that would completely transform the nature of the conflict. Air campaigns and remote strikes can be sustained politically for longer periods, but the introduction of ground forces into a country as large, populated, and strategically complex as Iran would open a new phase with unpredictable consequences. The human cost would rise, the political pressure would intensify, and the margin for error would shrink dramatically. At the same time, one of the most striking aspects of this entire situation is how interconnected different conflicts have become, with overlapping involvement that blurs traditional lines. Experience from other war zones is being used in real time, strategies are being adapted across regions, and the same technologies are appearing in multiple theaters, creating a circular dynamic where each conflict feeds into the other. This is no longer a set of isolated events. It is a networked confrontation where every action has ripple effects far beyond its immediate location. And perhaps the most important takeaway from all of this is that the gap between what is happening and what is being officially communicated is growing wider by the day. The more precise the strikes become, the more visible the consequences, and the more complex the alliances behind the scenes, the harder it becomes to maintain a simplified version of events. This is not just another conflict cycle. This is a shift in how global power is projected, contested, and understood in real time. The decisions being made now, the strategies being deployed, and the alliances being tested are shaping a future that will extend far beyond this moment. If you want to truly understand what is happening, you have to look beyond the surface, connect the patterns, and recognize that this is not just about one region or one confrontation. It is about a transformation in the global order that is unfolding right in front of us. And if you are paying attention, you can already see that the world on the other side of this will not look the same. So make sure you stay informed, stay aware, and stay connected. Because this story is far from over, and the real implications are only just beginning to reveal themselves.